So Tommy Robinson has he's endorsing, he's promoting Christianity, and I'm all about that. I'm all over that. I When I heard about this, there were a couple of things that went through my mind. Obviously, that's great, and I hope that I hope for real success. But there's more, and the more is why I'm having this conversation with you guys now. This is so important. What's being spoken about, what's being pushed, is a return back to British traditional culture, which is great. To be honest, I think that's fantastic. I come from a Caribbean background myself, and I was born and brought up here. And yeah, as far as the public square is concerned, yes, that's great. If I want to go somewhere and I for myself want to appreciate British culture, it's great. This is the place to do it. So I'm all for that. This is a reaction though, okay? And it's a well understood reaction. I appreciate, I get it, and I can see what's happened over the last 40 or so years. I'm 51, lived here all my life, and in the UK all my life, I should say, and I can see what's happened. I saw all the social disruption taking place in the 80s. I was very young at the time, riots in Brixton, etc. Yeah, and a real sense of disenfranchisement. I can't speak, but um, Black British feeling like they have no place in this society, and really being pushed to the edge, experiencing horrible things like people di- dying in police cells all of a sudden, black kids dying in police cells, and then the infamous sus laws. I saw this take place. I was very young at the time, but I saw it taking place. And then we moved into we moved into the 90s, where there were inroads of, if you like, diversity into the media, etc. It was okay. It was okay, in my opinion, anyway. Yeah, I think that overcompensated it for it in after 2010 or something like that, and it's, there's been an overcompensation. I've seen successive mass migration moves, and I am cynical. I am I'm absolutely cynical. I am the beneficiary of migration, of immigration, and I am very happy to be so. Legal, obviously. Um, the the thing that I've realized is that a lot of this isn't the problem isn't the use of the system, it's the abuse of the system. That's what really people are really pushing against, whether they even know it or not. There's a lot of reactionary behavior, and now there's a rise of ethno nationalism, which wasn't there before. All this is to say that I get why people are feeling this way, and there's a push towards that heritage identity, which they feel is cultural Christian. Even Richard Dawkins said the same thing. He said that he considers himself, that famous atheist considers himself, a cultural Christian. There are massive issues with this, okay, and if we don't address them, we're going to find ourselves back in the same place, possibly even worse than when we started. The push that people are actually having against is they having against the continued push and the rise of Islamism into the public square, which will continue unless people get serious. It will continue because that's where the money is, and that's where the political power is. We know this. The same things that they used to accuse Jewish people of, which wasn't right. But yes, there were rich Jews doing things, but the majority of Jewish people weren't those, you know. And and even now, I guess we can say that the majority of Muslims aren't those. However, they 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 are moving as a voting bloc, okay, and there's a push for Islamism into the public square, which is what the Jewish never did. So, and that's just the fact. It's not me saying, "Oh, Muslims are this or Jews are this." It's not. It's just the fact. There is a push towards Islamism as as first a protected, first as a protected characteristic. Yeah, religion is a protected characteristic, but as a protected subgroup, you in such that you cannot criticize it or anything like that. And then next, it will be more granular. Okay, you said this, off to the gulag you go. And we can all feel that pressure, and it's not fair, and it's not right, and it is against what is against the heritage. But what I'm the point I'm trying to get to is, if we're going for cultural Christianity, we're missing the mark, and we're missing the mark in a powerful, fundamental way, which means that you're going to find yourself back here again, okay? Because it was never supposed to be about cultural Christianity. You can't have cultural Christianity. It should be regenerative Christianity. Regenerative Christianity is fundamentally different. I'll explain it like this. Cultural Christianity is like the rays. Okay, it's the after effect. Regenerative Christianity, true Christianity, where you are regenerated. Okay, you are born again. Those are the same sorts of things. You are born again. You're regenerated, a new creation inside. Okay, the real thing is like the sun. Cultural Christianity, or these side effects that we all appreciate, they're like the rays, they're like the heat. To have cultural Christianity without having God is like having the sun without having the heat. Yeah, you can't have one without the other. I spent my time and I went into it in more detail, and it's been recognized in the past as well, by the way. I'm not just making this up, by the likes of Nietzsche, of all people, who was an atheist. He clocked it. He clocked it over 100 years ago, and with the likes of C.S. Lewis also. Okay, check out the videos on my channel. There's one, the problem with cultural Christianity, or cultural Christianity won't work, something to that effect. I strongly suggest that you go and check that out, right? For more details. It's scripted. I'm not speaking as loosely off the hip as I'm speaking here, off the cuff as I'm speaking here. But check it out. It's worth your time. Just be patient. Go through it. You'll hear me. But there is more, and there has always been more, and there's always been so much more, and there's always been so much more available. Right? The real Christianity, the real stuff, the stuff that many of you haven't even had, that you haven't had access to, you haven't even been told about. When I became a Christian at 18 years old, okay, I wasn't a Christian because my parents were Christians or anything like that. Okay, discovered it myself. I asked God certain questions, something that people don't normally do. We don't ask God, who are you? What are you about? We don't do that. We assume. That's if we even get that far. Okay, and you have to do it with humility. Obviously, it's God, and that's if you even get that far. For most people, they don't. What we mostly did, what my generation and the generations older than me, and the generations younger than me, and most people, what they do is they just accept, they inherit the beliefs of their parents. Okay, and that's a massive issue. That is a massive issue. Just accept. And then when things get hard, you find it doesn't work. It can't hold the pressure. Just an inherited belief will not sustain the pressure for the struggles and trials of life. That goes for everyone, including Muslims, including Christians, including Jews, including everyone. When life gets tough, then what do? It has to be real for you. It has to be real for you. Okay, fine, right, that's cool. You get that? Why I am so pleased to hear about this, about Tommy Robinson pushing Christianity, Reform saying that they can push Christianity, and there's a role that they can do. Yeah, Nigel Farage saying you can push Christianity. There's a role that they can do, but it's not. And they're trying to ride on on this wave of cultural Christianity, and that's okay. It is what it is. But with regenerative Christianity, the real thing, okay, which you can, I'm not directing you to a particular church. I'm I'm directing you to the church, the born agains. We're everywhere. We're in all sorts of places, okay, and yet we're not always in the obvious place. You may go to many Church of England. Church of England is just it's all over the place at the moment. I wouldn't. I mean, some churches of England would be good, but many are just, like I say, they're all over the place at the moment. Being born again isn't about that. You do need to be part of a church. You do need to be part of a congregation. It says in the Bible, do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together. It's not just about what you receive, it's about what you go to give. You're being part of a community, you're being part of a congregation with its flaws, with its brokenness. That's what the people talk about, becoming a good Christian, becoming a strong Christian development. That's part of what they're talking about. Yeah. Being someone who can actually be part of a broken, flawed congregation, a broken and flawed community, and add something positive to them. Yeah. Add something where people don't understand, you can explain. Where people need help, you can be that help. Where people need grace and patience and kind and care, you can be that person. It's got this is notice this is irrelevant of race or culture or background or anything like that. That's why the church is all over the world. This is the way to go. This has always been the way to go. I remember when I was a kid. I remember when I was a kid, yeah, and how I was brought up. Being brought up in the in East London, and being brought up in a mixed immigrant community. Lots of Afro Caribbeans, but there was lots of other people also. So one of the things that what I remember being taught was we were brought up by default labor. Okay, in the same way today in America, people are brought up by default. Say if they're black, they're brought up in many places in America. They're brought up by default Democrat. We were brought up by default Labor. I remember hearing my teachers talk about labor politics, etc., etc. That's fine. Yeah, it is what it is. It was what it was. I revisited it as I got older. I revisited everything. I revisited my politics. I revisited my faith, and when you're a child, you can't somebody says to you, well, we know that God doesn't exist because science has proven it. Okay, when you're a child, what you got, how can you push back? You can't push back against that. Should you even push back against it? You're a kid. You need to listen to your elders, and it's the right thing to do at that age. But as you get older, you need to start to revisit things and start to think, okay, is that true? That where did they come up with this? And I mean it, you need to revisit everything, because as you get older, particularly when you get my age, you realize how agenda driven people are. We know this about the news. Oh, okay, this newspaper is left leaning, this newspaper is right leaning. So we know that's a thing. Right? Right, so we mustn't be intellectually lazy and start saying, oh, I don't know, whatever, just ignoring it. That people who taught us as when we were young were really as pure as a driven snow, and there was nothing more morally balanced and professional than a scientist. Okay, what on earth? Yeah, what on earth? How many times have you heard typically of people going to university, speaking to a professor, and then coming back and having a completely different set of beliefs? It's not that the professor was right, it's that the student was young. The professor would have lots of good points and all the rest of it. Most importantly, what they will have is age. Okay, you can take an untrained person and put them against that same professor, and that same untrained person will have a lot more pushback, and not necessarily silly either. Some good points, simply because he or she is older and more worldly wise. Yeah. But when you've got students who just look up to the professor, and the professor's going to mark them anyway, and they need to see things the way the professor sees them if they're going to get their grades. So often they they fall. I remember hearing a story about a young girl, Christian girl, uh, many years ago. She had a strong faith, etc. She went to study philosophy, and it really messed with her head. And I hear that that often messes with a lot of people's heads. Now I'm 51. I've listened to a little bit of philosophy, and I as I start to listen to it, I hear some of the things they say, and I think to myself, my days, your logic isn't necessarily wrong, but your assumptions are flawed. What about this? You've missed that. What about that? You've missed that. I'm older. I can do that. Young kids can't. Yeah, I'm not saying that the lecture was bad. They weren't. They were unchallenged. They were unchallenged because the students had nothing to challenge them with because they're so young. That's what it was like when you were young. And you need to revisit things. You need to revisit things. You need to think again. There's a lot riding on this. Okay, you may be thinking, okay, our culture, our identity, our heritage, okay, our race even is riding on this. May well be. May well be. If you don't have the UK, then where have you got? Where you going? Okay? May well be. But you've got more riding on it than that. There's the the thing that's on my mind is the word heritage. A lot of people they're focusing on their heritage. That's the talk. The talk is heritage. What people aren't realizing, that might be the wrong word. I think that I've realized that the word they really need to focus on is posterity. It's the other way around. It's your posterity you need to think about. And think of it like this. You want you have what do you want? Okay, let me put it like this. What do you want? Do you want a high paying job, or do you want or would you rather have not so much of a high paying job, a low paying job, but uh, high purchasing power? Okay? Either a job that pays lots of money, or a job that doesn't pay lots of money but has a lot of purchasing power. Right? So I want you to think that through what I'm actually saying here. Because what you want is high purchasing power. You want the ability to buy what you want, not just what you need, but what you want when you want it. That's not necessarily the same as having lots of money. Because, for instance, if you've got lots of money and you're living in a place with high inflation, then that lots of money just disappears. What you want is high purchasing power. So what I'm trying to say is you want the benefit from a chain of causes. It's the benefit you're after. That's what you really want. And it's the same thing. If you think it's going back to heritage, yeah, I'm not denying it. Heritage is really important. It's really important for me. Yeah. So therefore I'm going to assume it's important for everybody. I think that's valid. But what you want, what you're interested in is your posterity. Is your posterity. Your posterity actually is more than your heritage. Heritage is important. It really is. I'm not denying that. But it's your posterity. It's, it's what you leave behind, for whom you leave it behind for. Okay? Your children, your children's children, the mark you leave. That that is what you leave that is what you leave, or you leave as a blessing. That is what you change. That's the deep thing. That's regenerative Christianity. When you have cultural Christianity, what often happens is it's often not quite inherited, right? You only get the after effects. As I said, the after effects, the afterglow. And that fades because why would your children follow something that they don't believe? Or it might for a generation. Yeah, but all that's going to happen is they're going to turn around and say, oh, okay, let me see. Why on earth would I believe that? That's just church stuff. That's not science. Recognize it because it's happened already. Okay. When you've got pressures such as the sexual revolution, 1950s, 60s, sexual revolution, huge pressure that absolutely changed the West, redefined how we see ourselves, redefined everything. All the craziness that you see happening today, most of the craziness, not all, but most of the craziness, yeah, went through that route. Yeah, it didn't start through that route. That route was that route has roots. Yeah, and that route and the roots that it has is actually agnosticism, atheism, and a departure from the things of God of a previous generation. And the roots of that actually come from a cultural Christianity. There, you see, you recognize it's coming back again. It was never the way to go. So then you need to ask yourself the question. Remember, I kept on circling back to saying the whole idea of it's time to re-examine. Yeah. Go through my channel, answer some of your questions. All your questions always had answers. They always had answers. It was a lie that they didn't have answers. It is a lie that they were saying to you, oh, okay, oh well, yeah, uh, all religions are essentially the same. They're not essentially the same. We don't all believe the same things. And I think that's becoming more and more obvious now, particularly with the rise of Islamism. Okay, it was never, that was a lie. It just was. That's what it was. Okay, they're not even essentially the same. Again, it is a lie. Reasons for salvation, why you need to be saved, and why Christ had to die on the cross, and why these things are important. You know, it means something. It always did. To say, oh, it's just part of, it's just religion. Again, it was a lie. You know, I don't know what to tell you. They weren't being honest. They weren't being honest when people made you feel that there weren't answers for these things. There've always been answers for these things. They've been asked. Some of these questions were asked thousands of years ago. Like Christianity's 2,000 years ago, and they were asking these questions. Some of them from before Christianity. Some of them since Christianity. You can find some of the answers here. You can find, the Bible is full of contradictions. There's a guy on YouTube called Mike Winger. He's a great guy to go check out his stuff. He's got loads of stuff on that. Oh, there's so many denominations. There's so many churches. Which one? It's a cop out. It's a cop out. Okay, pray about it. Ask God. He will help you. He will absolutely direct you if you pray. It happens. It happens to people all the time. It happens to me. It happens. If you ask, you will receive. Okay, but you've got to ask for the right reasons, for the right intent, with the right heart. And it's not about being selfish, and it's about being patient. It's about being humble. It's about knowing there is a God and you ain't it. You are not entitled. You are not owed. All I can say, all I can appeal to you is to don't get relaxed. Don't chill out. Don't leave this till tomorrow. Check my other videos out. They're all scripted. They're not as loose as this. I'm going to start making more unscripted videos like this in the future. This is going to be my new format, I think. Check out Mike Winger's stuff. I do suggest you have a look at. There's loads of people as well. It's not just him. Those are really good people. Do ask questions. Do ask God Himself. Actually do it. Don't have to do it publicly. Just do it. You can do it privately. That's all good. But your focus for what you really want, the answers for what you really want, aren't necessarily from where you thought they were. I started this video talking about, and framing this video, to be honest, talking about Tommy. And there's a lot I am grateful for in this. There's a lot I'm grateful for. There is. I don't know if he's been trained, or if he's been spoken to, or for anything like that. You do need training, especially if you're going to be in the public, if you're going to be public eye. I don't know I don't know where he's at. I don't claim to know in the slightest, and I make no guesses. I know I've been a Christian for for over 30 years. Over 30 years. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's 32, 33. This year it's going to be 33 years. And I certainly know there have been many people who were brought up Christian but not necessarily born again. Yeah, so they inherited it, but they didn't make it their own. I certainly know many people. There are many people I feel that are leading churches. Yes, the Church of England, but also non-denominational churches such as my own, who are there have been many people who found themselves. I don't know if they were just religious or something. I don't necessarily know that they ever were born again. I don't know that they were, which is deeply concerning. Unfortunately, it's a thing. But we, as in born agains, are there. We're around. You can't see. You can see some people because of the way they live over a period of time, and how they always return to they always return back to Christ. They can't, if they fall down, they always get back up again. It's just part of it, and it's not performative. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's just something that's in them because they're born again. It's what they are. They are a new creation. It's ontological. The word is ontological. So they just they just do. They always end up doing. They all mess up, and then get back up again. They just can't stay down because it's just not them. At the end of the day, even if they really screw it. Some born agains, there are born agains who are truly born again who may be on drugs, and really struggling with that, or really struggling with porn, really struggling with that. They're born again because they're struggling. That's part of the point. If they weren't born again, they might not even be struggling. Yeah. And eventually, if they don't stop, eventually they'll overcome because it's theirs in Christ Jesus, and there's a lot more. There's a lot more available to them as long as they start to learn what they actually have in their armory. That's another discussion for another day. Listen, I hope that you've got this far, that you've heard me, that you understand my heart, that what I've said has convinced you, has at least has convinced you to actually decide to start looking for a church. There are some great churches out there, and even they might be great and all the rest of it, and still not for you. Okay, that's a thing. That is genuinely a thing. That's why you need to pray. Yeah. So just because you decide not to go to church A doesn't make church A a bad church. It just means it makes it not right for you. Okay. Don't do anything like go to Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses or anything like that. You need a Christian church. They may think they are, they're not. I need to be honest. Okay. So what you are looking for is, I I don't want to start picking denominations, but it's, there are some good Church of England, nothing progressive, obviously. um, you definitely need to pray. 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 If you're not praying, then what are you doing? Okay. I There are some good Pentecostals. There are some good Baptists. There are some good, and not all Pentecostals, not all Baptists. Yeah. There are a lot of good non-denominationals. You can see I'm being generous here. Yeah. I previously I went to a large church that's primarily in the southeast of England called Kingsgate Christian Church. That's a large multi-site church. It's a good one. There are a few good large multi-site churches, believe it or not. No matter what people say, they are good churches. Um, and you can check them out. Yeah, they've got space. They've got space for you. They will train you up and all the rest of it. And then what you have small groups that you meet together on a regular basis as well. Yeah, make that decision. Let me know how it goes for you in the comment section. All right. Any questions you have, you can put them in the comment section. People, anybody that can help will answer. If they can't, we'll see. You can also visit some of these other YouTubers that I've mentioned as well. they will do a lot of good stuff. All right. Thank you very much.